everything. Here we go. So there's a problem. You are not connected.
Mysteries abound around the world, from strange lights in the night skies to ghostly apparitions passing from one realm to the next. From the Great Pyramids of Egypt to what lies in the depths of Loch Ness. From Bigfoot to Atlantis, they are all mysteries waiting to be solved. Join host Lori Hood, Jeff Stewart, Ricky, and Lauren Smith as they search for the truth on Nightcaller's Bigfoot Radio.
It is October 17th, and you are listening to Nightcaller's Bigfoot Radio, and we welcome everyone out there that's listening in live tonight. Well, I think that's Jeff, so let's bring Jeff on. Hey, Jeff, are you here?
I am.
Hey, welcome. Hey, we had a scary thing right before before the intermission started. It said that we had no host. There was a problem, and there's no host. And then Lauren dropped out, and I thought, oh, my God, what happened if she can't get back in? Do we even still have a show? You know, so I was like, oh, thank goodness. We're all here. Praise the Lord. Everything's good.
I exited out and then got back in thinking I needed to direct connect, and it told me I was already called in and that I couldn't direct connect. Oh my God, I was freaking out.
Yeah.
Who is doing what into the mic?
I don't know, man. It is like super loud. You know, we've had some complaints about our audio, and folks, I'm sorry, we're trying to work it out. We don't know who's doing it. We have somebody who is making weird noise, and we don't know who it is.
I don't think that's it. I think its quality is what they're complaining about.
I don't know. They're talking about artifact noises, lots of it. And all I can figure is that it's our backgrounds coming in or something. See, like Ricky is getting messages, and so it sounds like somebody honking.
Yes, I can say I just heard like a horn honking. I'm over here going, what the heck is that?
I've got it on silent. It shouldn't vibrate or nothing.
Ricky, put your phone on Do Not Disturb.
That'll work.
Or bring me your phone and I'll put it on Do Not Disturb.
I just thought somebody was sitting at the truck stop, you know.
No.
Oh, y'all can't make me laugh. I've still got this stupid bronchitis. I'm trying to get over it, but every time I laugh, I cough. So, oh, my gosh, I guess I'm going to be coughing a lot.
Yeah. Oh, my God, my toddler's awake now. I give up.
Oh, no.
Does anybody have a tranquilizer they will let me borrow?
Well, you know, Lauren, if you take the tranquilizer, nobody's going to want it back. What are you going to do with it? Cough it back up?
Yeah. Well, no. I meant like a tranquilizer dart, like a tranquilizer gun. Like, keep you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, now you're talking. No. You're talking about little children.
Yes. Don't you know me? Do you know what it's like to have a 4-year-old in the house? That's like a nuclear bomb in a AA size battery container.
Well, he just had a birthday, so, he's got to work off all that excitement. He'll just have to put up with it.
I just had a birthday, and I don't have any left to take care of that excitement.
That's a cheering thing. That's a cheering thing, my dear.
Well, how about you just move in with me and watch my cheer in and raising for me?
I might do that. Anyway, we have a... has anybody had anything exciting before we go to our guest tonight? Anybody?
Exciting. Oh, I got a call from the Texas Attorney General today.
Oh, wow.
That counts as exciting. Yeah, because somebody is going around and putting flyers on cars inviting, and it says that they're not going to require any of the new voter ID that is being required by the state of Texas in order to vote. And they're putting these flyers on cars. And I sent a picture of it to the Attorney General just on the Facebook page, and I'm like, nobody's going to respond, but I'm sending it anyway. And the next thing you know, I get a message back saying this is an assistant to Ken Paxton, and we would like your phone number, Mr. Stewart. We would like to contact you. And I gave it to them, and sure enough, I got to talk to the Texas Attorney General, Mr. Ken Paxton, today.
Wow. So what did you find out? Is it a hoax?
No, it's honest voter fraud that is trying to be put forth. And I'm all for people voting for who they want to vote for. I'm not getting political or anything. I mean, it's your right to vote. If you're a citizen, it is your right to vote, and I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. But if we have laws that have to be followed, I think they need to be followed.
Exactly.
And we had a long, very nice conversation, and I kind of helped point them in the right direction to go and bust this ring of potential voter fraud.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so that's the only excitement I had. Other than that, I killed about a 350-pound big boar hog about 2 days ago with my bow. That's about the only other excitement I had.
Good job. Dude.
Yeah, he's been tearing up fences. He had been destroying feeders and property, and we've been having a lot of problems out of this big guy. And he's got a brother that's traveling with him that is on my list next if I can get a hold of him. But actually,
I have
made some pork fajitas out of him last night for supper. So.
Man,
I don't waste anything.
I like to let my wild hog soak about 3 days in ice before I try cooking it.
Well, I killed him, what was it, Friday evening, I think it was. It was either Friday or Saturday evening that I killed him. And so he'd been soaking this whole time, and I just took the back straps out and I sliced them up and made my coveted deer camp fajitas out of it, which have potatoes and onions and jalapenos and pork and actually a little bacon.
Tonight, and here you go. I'm going to be just
truly. But that's been my extent of my excitement.
Well, I had something happen, and I'm going to make it real quick. I was at Kroger's today after work, and I went over to get a cart, and there was a woman's purse in it. So I picked up the purse, and about that time, this woman comes charging across the parking lot. Now, she's elderly, but she is hooking it towards me, going, "That's my purse! That's my purse!" Like I stole it. And everybody's looking at me like I'm some sort of a fiend. And so I just timidly hold the purse out to her. And she comes and she grabs it, rips it out of my hand, and then takes off. And I was going, ma'am, I wanted to tell her I was fixing to take it into the customer service. And everybody was just looking at me like I was just like some sort of... Now, I'm well-dressed. I work in a government office, and I'm well dressed. I don't look like some kind of crackhead that be stealing somebody's purse. But I said, I want y'all to know I was fixing to take this first customer service. They go, okay. And I'm like, oh, that almost made me cry. And so I think I would be like that.
God.
Yeah. Oh. I just wanted to take her down and really give her a reason to yell at me. But I did. So anyway, there's my story. Okay, everybody, we are fixing to have our guest on. Lauren, can you read the intro? And let's go ahead and bring Joe on.
Okay.
I could talk with him.
There's no big words in this one, is there? You know.
I don't think so.
Thanks.
Yes,
okay.
huge words.
No, that one last week really threw me. You guys, I'm running on like 3 hours of sleep for the last 9 months. Okay, you gotta just.
Well, I tell you what, I could
small
do.
word.
I could ask Jeff to read it. How about that, Jeff? You want to read it?
Okay.
I can read it. Where is it?
Oh, well,
I'll read it. It's
right.
fine.
You can't read it.
Okay,
Hey,
I'll read
you
it.
just tell me where to go to look at it, and I'll read the heck out of it.
Oh, good Lord.
Okay. Ricky.
There's that. Ricky, we're going to have you muted, boy. Okay.
It is muted.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm reading. Joe Flippo is a 41-year-old researcher of the mysterious Sasquatch. He never believed in the stories about Sasquatch or Bigfoot until a series of experiences occurred in August 2005. Joe then had no alternative but to acknowledge that there is a species of unstudied primate living in the wilds of North America. Joe makes a living as a trained security officer. In his spare time, he researches local areas in the northwest Alabama area. He has been married to his wife for almost 13 years, aww, and is the father of 2 boys. Aww. He will describe himself as just an ordinary man who has had some extraordinary experiences. Let's welcome Joe Flippo from Alabama.
I love that he describes himself just as an ordinary man who has had some extraordinary experiences. That's awesome.
Who likes to hog hunt? That's right.
Hey, Joe. Welcome. Welcome.
Well, it's glad to be here with y'all tonight. Y'all started me out laughing, and I had a big feast planned out, and I just laughed it out of my mind, I reckon.
We're so unprofessional here. It's really awful. You know, that's just the way we are. People do like us. I don't know why.
Right.
But
I don't know. Maybe it's because we're unprofessional. I don't know.
Like,
well, I'm going to tell you,
go ahead.
I've been waiting to get old Joe on the phone for a while so that I could talk to him about the choke tubes for his shotgun.
Oh, yeah. I finally got those today. Yeah, we were up late last night talking about that.
You bet, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you what. Before y'all start talking about that, let's find out how Joe got interested in Sasquatch. So, Joe, tell us how it all started for you.
Okay, well, I grew up in northwest Alabama, of course, and south central Tennessee. And around here, we've always talked about boogers growing up. And, you know, I've had experience when I was a little kid where we would see a limb break or something on one of my grandfather's properties, and he'd say, oh, a booger did that. That means to leave it alone. Well, I never associated that with Sasquatch or with Bigfoot because everybody knows that back when I was little, that was all up in the Pacific Northwest. We didn't have anything like that here. So whenever I got to getting out west and everything, out here people talk about, well, we've got Sasquatch sightings and this, that, and other. And I thought, this is Texas or this Oklahoma or wherever. This isn't Pacific Northwest. And I kind of blew it off, you know, because we never had anything like that I'd heard of except up towards Oregon and California and places like that. And so it wasn't until my experience down in southeast Texas that I really understood that a booger is the same thing as a Sasquatch.
Huh. Okay, so were you a security guard in August 2005 when all this happened?
Yes, I was a security guard down at Evadale at the paper mill down there, and we were just getting ready for Hurricane Rita, if I remember right, and then we were, or not Rita, Katrina, and we were getting things ready and stuff, and pretty much battening down the hatches on things because we knew it was going to be bad, but most of the time.
Can you hold that for just a minute, because I need to interrupt. I hate to.
Okay.
But you know, back several years ago, a research partner that I had, he was a truck driver and he drove chip trucks, and they used to deliver chips over there to the paper mill in Evadale.
Right.
But they would not go, the drivers would wait outside the plant until another driver came, because they would not go to the back of that plant by themselves.
Right.
They said it was just too creepy, it was too scary. They didn't know what it was.
Right.
They thought it was haunted. All they knew is that it just felt like their back was crawling. None of them would go in there by themselves. They would always wait, and they would always wait till another driver came, so that there was always two trucks back there, and they never left another truck alone. Okay, now this is the same plant, which I think is amazing, because now we're fixing to find out why. So go ahead, Joe.
Okay, yeah, I was the roving guard from the 3 in the afternoon shift to 11 o'clock at night. So I saw the plant activities during the day, and as it transitioned at night. Well, in the back of the plant, they have their own garbage dump, and the garbage track hole drivers and the garbage trucks guys, they never stay back there by themselves. And the official reason is because there's feral dogs back there. And there are feral dogs. People drop them off in Evadale. I reckon it's at the paper mill. But anyway, you ride around this big recovery pond back there. There's probably an area about 2 miles that you go back there and you turn around and come around the other side of the pond. Well, I was down there, and on the southeast side of the paper mill, there is a gate down there that we go and check. And I was driving down through there on a golf cart that was battery operated, and it had 4-wheeler tires on it, but when it drove, all you could hear was just the sand in the tires. And often when you go back there, you feel like, well, something's watching you, or that there's something back there. And of course, we've seen hogs back there. We've seen feral dogs, whatever. So I grew up here in the pinelands of northwest Alabama, and I just kind of put it down to, well, this is swamp and this is a little bit different, and I've just got to get used to it. But anyway, I was driving down one of those roads to go check out the gate, and I smelled something that smelled really bad. And the best way I can describe it is if you took green coffee beans and you cooked them, and if you put maybe dead meat or hogs or something, just mixed all that together, and it was there. I mean, and my first, I have hog hunted a pretty good bit, and I've hunted other things my whole life. And I smelled that, and I thought, well, this could be bad if this is hogs, because this is around in August, and there could very well be a sow with the little ones from this year in there. And so I stopped a little bit, and I I kind of listened and looked, and I didn't see nothing. Well, when I turned down this road and headed towards the gate, I got about 100 feet from the gate, I heard something whoop at me. And it was three real quick hoops. And it sounded just like a howler monkey or something. I thought, that's kind of weird. And I sat there trying to go through my mind thinking, what in the world would make that sound? I wasn't familiar with that area too well, and I thought, well, could it be a crane or something like that? And I thought, no, that wouldn't be. And so I didn't know what it was. So as I drove down towards the gate, it would when I got what I considered closer to it, it would get quieter as it hooped. So I didn't think much about it, just so much as it's kind of weird. I don't think there's monkeys down here in this swamp, but who knows what's in it, So it was 15,000 acres of just trees and stuff. So we went down there, and I checked the gate, and I turned around. And when I come back, when I passed that spot where it first started hooping, as I got further away from it, it got louder and stronger in intensity. And when I got about probably, 300 feet from it, you could still feel that hooping vibrate in my chest. And I thought,
wow.
That's a big animal doing that. And I don't know if it's mad at me or what, but I have no idea what it is. So I went back and asked my supervisor up there. I said, y'all had any reports of monkeys or anything around here? And he kind of laughed at me. He said, well, there ain't any monkeys. This isn't South America. And I said, well, okay, then. There's something back there that sounds like a chimpanzee or gibbon or something. I don't know what it is. And he kind of looked at me, and he didn't smile like I figured he would. And he said, well, yeah, just stay away from there for a little while. You check that gate once a day, that's enough. You ain't got to go back there around the dump tonight. So I didn't think too much of that. And I happened to see another one of the supervisors in the plant, and I asked him, because he worked around the garbage dump and everything, and I said, did you hear anything hooping out there a while ago? I said, I don't know if it's a crane or what, but it sounded like a monkey. He kind of laughed. He said, yeah, we ignore that. And I said, well, you know what it is? He said, yeah, but you won't believe it. And so that was pretty much the end of that episode. So I went home, and I did sit there and think, well, if there's nothing in North America that I could say that foot. If I was in South America or maybe in Africa, I would have thought it would have been a primate. And so I just went and got me a report to BFRO, because back then that's all I knew of that Mike would care about primates. I just thought they might was like that, just to have it. And I sent them a report, and that was just the beginning.
Yeah, you still with me?
Yes.
Those sounds like that, I've had several of those sounds myself that sounded like some sort of, for lack of a better term, sounded like a monkey of some kind.
Right.
And when researching it, the closest sounds that I could find, that I could download off the internet were of a howler monkey from South America.
Right.
But it wasn't quite exactly it, but it was just the closest.
Yes, and that's what I put in on my report to the BFRO. I said the only thing I could think of that might come close was a howler monkey, but I don't think they're in North America. And then they called me back and asked me what I thought and everything it was. I don't know. I said, it might be a booger, but I don't know what it could be.
And exactly. calling them boogers, at that's kind of like what it was always called in a lot of places here in the South. When people didn't know what it was, it was just a booger. It was
right. Yeah, we'd have people that, if you didn't know what it was in the woods, it was a booger, or maybe they might call it a booger man, maybe. But I was growing up that it was something because I could see like the branches and stuff, and my grandpa would say, "Oh, that's a booger, did it?" It's like if there was a chicken laid an egg, that chicken laid that egg. And I never did see a booger, but I always saw the evidence enough to think that, well, it's got to be something, and if everybody knows about it, it's...
I think Lori is on mute, and I can't figure out why. I can't figure out if she meant to do that, or if she can't get herself off mute, or...
Oh, no.
No cranky baby.
Well, Joe,
calm down.
Yes.
we were talking about yesterday or last night or whatever it was. We were kind of talking about the piglet in distress. He was asking about using those calls to bring in sows,
right?
To bring in pigs. Here's the thing: I use a lot of those same calls when I'm doing my Bigfoot research. Really? I don't do the howls and the yips and the play back the supposed Bigfoot calls that people have recorded. I don't use any of those. I use predator calls of, piglets in distress and rabbits in distress and things like that. And I've had really good success with getting responses from those.
That's interesting. I've gone hog hunting several times since I've started researching Bigfoot, and it's been less about the hogs and more about what I could hear in the woods. And
exactly.
I got to wondering, I had an episode when I was pig hunting where we were setting up on the ridge, and these several pigs come through, and we shot a sow, and the bullet went through the sow and hit a piglet, and it started squealing bloody murder. And then all of a sudden, here's all this herd of pigs out here killing the mama because they thought she had hurt the little one. And I wondered a lot of times if that was like a dinner bell for Sasquatch or anything. Any major apex predator would listen for that, and if they knew the baby was hurt, then the mama wasn't going to be looking to protect herself as much as that baby.
Joe, Wendy McGee in chat, she said to ask you what happened next about McFadden and all that.
Okay. Well, the next morning I went and I got up and got ready for the day just like normal, and went into work about 3 o'clock. And up there at Evadale, we as patrol officers, we had property behind Evadale High School there, and so around 3:30 I always went and checked the property lots and everything for the weekends, just Saturday afternoon. And so I got out there and I got out and walked down about, 40 feet from my truck and checked the lot. And then I heard something that sounded kind of like a chimpanzee. Whenever it's doing something, it makes a little kind of sound. And I thought, that's kind of weird. And so I got to look and see what that sound was from, because, that's not something out of the ordinary. And so as I went and looked, I walked down that bank there towards the river, and I got about 30 feet from what I see something that was hairy and big, and it was down on its knees, moving rocks around, and but before I realized it, I'd got within 30 feet of this thing. So I stopped, and when it heard me walking up there, I reckon I wasn't trying to hide my presence, but it stopped and it turns its head just a little bit towards me, and then it moved his whole body from his waist on around and looked at me. And I thought, what in the world is that? That's never been told me there was one of them here. And I had no idea what it was. I've sent my illustrations in, so you can kind of look and describe it. But that's pretty much what I saw.
And they're on the slideshow for anybody who's listening. They're on the slideshow on Blog Talk.
And but it was this thing at bank, I guess, was about 8 or 9 feet off the water. And when he stood up, I say he because I didn't see any signs that it was a female. But he stood up, his head was almost to the top of that bank. And when he stood up, I looked at him, and I broke every rule I ever heard researchers say. I was looking straight at him. I wasn't moving. I was trying to figure out what he was doing. He looked like he was doing the same thing for me. Kind of looked like, oh no, I don't want to be here. I've got caught out in the open. And what it was a big. If he didn't stand up, of course, he didn't stand straight up like a man can stand straight up and lock his back and his knees and his ankles. He didn't stand up that straight, but he stood straight up, and he looked at me, and I knew if he come up at bank there, he had me because I was within 30 feet of him, probably 90 feet from a truck. And so I just sat there, and he sat there, and he looked at me a little while. And whenever he started looking at me, he stopped this little noise he was making. And I kind of looked back. I thought maybe while he was working, he must have been singing to himself or something. I don't know. But he, like I said, he's about 8 foot tall. At that time, I was about 220 pounds. I guess he was probably 800 pounds. His shoulders was every bit of 3 foot across on each side. It looked like, but his arms were huge. His legs were like tree trunks. They're just massive. And you could tell that he hadn't had a meal in a while, and that was kind of what worried me. He had like ashy black skin. He had real dark brown fur. I'd say basically kind of like a dark umber, but it had streaks in it of like cinnamon or lighter brown, and those streaks may have been where the hair was dark or were wet and dry or not, but he did have streaks of white in his hair, and I kind of got the idea if he had been a human, he'd probably been maybe 40, 45 years old, because he was still well in his prime, even though he wasn't, I guess, well fed. He was well defined, and he still had a lot of muscles on him. You can tell, kind of like when you look at gorillas, you can see muscles defined that are different than human muscles. But, and like I said, I don't know what he was looking for, but he looked at me a little while, and I kind of hooped a little bit, and he didn't answer me back. He kind of looked at me. I thought, well, some of us got to say something. I can't speak yet, but something's got to happen. And when I did that, he didn't try to communicate in that. He started walking across the Neches River there. And whenever he watched me till he got far enough out, he got about, I guess, around stomach deep. I never seen him try to swim, and he held his hands up. His elbows were bent forward, kind of like an L shape, and he never. So his hands were wet from digging around rocks, but he never put his hands in the water. And he walked all the way across the river like that. And when he got over there, he went up that little bank and left out towards that train trestle that's there that goes across the river, and that's the last I saw of it.
I've had a lot of activity and recorded a lot of stuff and researched a lot on the Neches River. To me, it's an incredible area to research. It's very hot. I don't care where you go on the Neches, it's hot. It's a hot river. You know, it's just like the Sabine. It's also another river that has a lot of activity. So,
right.
Gosh, that's great. That is a fantastic story. Wow. I have never seen one on the Neches, though. You're truly blessed. You got to see something like that.
I don't know if I was blessed at the time or not, but I definitely knew. I definitely knew that I was seeing something out of the ordinary, and not many people seen it. Apparently, because the way he looked at me, he wasn't used to being looked at as intently, I guess. I'm just glad he is. As much respect as I gave him, because if he thought I was weaker, I'd be in dinner and wouldn't be here now.
Yeah. Wow. Or if you looked like you would be good to eat, you might not be here now to do this interview.
Yeah.
So I don't think they eat people. I don't think they're interested in that, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think they do either. But the way he looked like he'd been rode hard and put up wet, and he could use a good meal. And and the fact that I was there and he run off and left me meant he thought I could do him as much damage as he could do me, or enough that it wouldn't be worth contesting. And that's something that people don't talk about. You know, you got a lot of people that's in the frame of mind, and they talk about, well, it's just a nice, friendly, benevolent forest animal. What I seen wasn't friendly. He wasn't benevolent. He's just wanting to get out of there because he was trying to use his self-preservation skills like I was.
And I was going to agree with you there, because I've had a lot of aggressive behaviors come from the Neches River area. A lot of growling, you know, other things, and even though I hadn't seen one, you definitely don't feel welcome there.
No.
And you don't. You know, it's like, hey, what are you doing here? Kind of thing.
Yes, you're in my face.
Exactly. You know, have you ever heard of infrasound? I mean, some people don't believe in it, but I do. I've experienced it, and especially in the Neches River area. More so than anywhere else.
I've heard of infrasound, but I've never experienced it. He, as far as him making the sound at me, when he seen I wasn't one of his kind, he didn't want to have anything to do with me. He's headed across that river to keep from coming up the bank, I think. But you know, he's putting that water barrier between us, and where he went from there, I have no idea. But he's definitely didn't want any part of being around in my space.
Wow. How tall would you guess?
I would say that he was probably every bit of 9 foot, maybe 9.5. Like I said, that bank area was what I was guessing by, and I figured that bank area. Yeah, I think that bank area is probably about 10 foot tall, and his head. If you was walking up to that bank, and I know this because it's what I did. you couldn't see him until you got on the edge and you could look over because he was down digging around in the water. But when he stood up, his head didn't cover that bank that didn't reach the top of there, but he was within 6 inches of it.
Well, I think we're going to go ahead and go to a break. Ricky, Jeff, if you have any questions, hold them. We'll be back in just a little bit. Anyone out there want to make a phone call and talk to Joe yourself? The number is 347-989-0313, and be sure to push 1 so we know that you're wanting to ask a question. Okay. Anyway, I wanted to say that, wow, it got quiet. Okay, I wanted to say that the first is an advertisement from Adam Tomlinson on his new movie, The Shadow People, that's coming out November 1st. And then after that is a song that's been requested by Joe. It is a Native American gospel song, and it is absolutely beautiful. So here we go, everyone. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. No, actually, 6 minutes, 24 seconds. Joe?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you say something?
Oh,
okay.
One of my boys was getting up, I was checking on them.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. That was a pretty cool song. Thanks, Joe. That was a
good song.
Really
I really
cool.
like that.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, for years, Native Americans were not allowed to practice their culture in any way. You know, people wanted to kill the Indian to save the man, and it just doesn't work that way. But you hear songs like that of just their unbridled spirituality and how they care. You know, they care about things that we take for granted, and that song lifts me up a lot. And Jonathan Miracle, I believe, is the writer of that song, and he does a great job with all of his stuff.
Now, the group is called Broken Walls. So if anyone wants to go and watch it, the video is really awesome. So.
Yes.
Okay, Jeff, are you back with us? Do you have some questions for Joe? I don't want to hog our guest. Maybe Jeff's not back yet. Okay.
I am, and then again I'm not. Y'all caught me mid getting me a glass of ice water and a snack. So
that's not what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say midstream.
No.
Oh.
Thank goodness, no.
Okay. So you've had a lot of experiences down in Texas, Joe.
Yes,
and this was back in 2005, which was not very long ago. We're talking 11 years ago, which is about in the same window of time that I was doing a lot of research along the ages as well. So I think it's entirely possible that maybe we had encounters with the same tribe of a Sasquatch, possibly.
Yeah. Well,
interesting.
I don't know how many of them there are, but they're not densely populated in that area. So you know, it could very well be just one troop in there that we've seen. If not the same one, then their brother or sister or niece or nephew.
Do you mind me asking you what county? Would it be too much to ask what county you were in?
Oh, when I was down there, that was in Jasper County.
I knew it was going to be Jasper. That's exactly where I was.
Yes.
Jasper.
And, you know, there's other things that looking back at I never associated with the same experience, but if you go behind the paper mill, there's a road 2246 is a farmer market road that goes down, and then it's another road. If you we had scan points that we had to check in different places, and we had to go and check water wells that was out in the middle of nowhere. And that same smell.
You're talking about the Evadale paper mill,
right,
or the Lufkin paper mill? The Evadale.
The Evadale.
Okay.
Yes. And there's that same smell that after, you're not going to forget it, but there's different times that along in the more remote areas you would smell that if the wind was blowing or whatever, and you think, well, better look out for hogs. But, looking back, it very well could be that group's area that they always went around with. Because I know, for example, those feral dogs that we talk about, we'd go sometimes and there'd be as many as 20 or 30 down there, and then the next week it might not be more than 5, 6, 7, or 8 we'd see, and we'd think, well, alligators must have got them, but it very well could have been Sasquatch that got them.
Yeah. Very much so. Good Lord. Now I'm hearing dogs. I'm hearing dogs and a breather. We've got some great sound effects this show.
Well, I can promise you the dogs are mine.
Hey, we don't know that the breather isn't you.
Okay, now you're living in Northwest Alabama.
Yes.
I still want to stay on Texas because oh man, did you have anything else happen while you were down here?
Well, I went down there to McFadden wildlife area down there, and I worked.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. Where is that at?
That is about half a mile from my house.
Well, here we go. Okay, I'm going to listen in. Y'all go. I'm going to listen in.
It's like going towards High Island, and you go down there.
Okay.
There's a game preserve.
Different McFadden then.
You go down there, and it's a game preserve, and I thought it was called McFadden Beach, but you go in and you sign in with the game wardens there at the office, and then you go in. Well, I worked on Wednesday through Sunday, so my off days were Monday and Tuesday. And I love to go down there and crowd.
Was that closer to Louisiana, Joe?
What was that?
Is that closer to the Louisiana line?
No, it's close to the Galveston.
Oh,
yes,
we really sound.
We have a McFadden that's like just right here by my house too, so that's why I was thinking that was where you was talking about.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you go from say Port Arthur to Galveston, down there to catch the trolley or the
ferry,
yeah, to go across there, or you'll go, or you're heading down in the right direction down there. And,
I wouldn't even think there would be Sasquatch down.
Everybody likes the beach, Mom.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But I would go in on Mondays. My wife and I, we were dating one time, and we would go down there. We'd leave as soon as it's a little bit before daylight. We'd get down there, and I'd left my lights on the Jeep at this one time, and my battery went dead, and we were the only ones down there. Usually the game wardens come by about once every 30 minutes, so checking on me because I was the only one down there. But this time they hadn't done it, and so I told her, I said, well, you just sit here in the Jeep, and alligator won't bother you. Ain't nobody out here. And I'll walk down there, I guess it's probably 5-6 miles to the game warden station till somebody come jump us off. Well, I've been walking about 20, 25 minutes, and I see the truck coming up behind me, and it's game warden. And he stopped. He said, you out here by yourself in this wilderness, aren't you? I kind of laughed. I said, yeah, well, battery went dead. He said, yeah, I saw your girlfriend down there, and she told me you was headed up here. He said, you should stay with your van. Don't ever walk down here like this by yourself. I said, well, I'm not worried about alligators or snakes and that, and I'm handling them. He said, oh, that ain't what I'm talking about.
Oh.
I thought, well, what are you talking about? He said, well, it's just dangerous animals, and people don't expect to run across. They run across down here every now and then. And I just and I thought, wow, I figured he's talking about alligators or maybe wild hogs or something, but he never said anything else. So I went down there, and he went and jumped me off, and we left and come home. But that's the only experience I had down there.
Wow.
But I thought that was noteworthy after I got to studying up and researching Sasquatch and things. He may have known something that I didn't. He wasn't going to tell me. He just didn't want me to walk 5-6 miles by myself. But, there ain't no telling what they see that we'll never know about.
Exactly. I had an experience similar to that when I was researching an area to have an outing. I was going to invite a bunch of people, a lot of internet Bigfoot people. We were all going to get together and have a big group outing. And I was researching an area, and the camp host there was someone I had worked with. And, of course, he was like the biggest pothead ever. And he was sitting there smoking a big old joint just laughing at me because I believed in Bigfoot and what I was trying to come down there and do. And I'm just like, go ahead and laugh at me, right? So he's showing me around, and he has we have park ranger show up. Well, he's trying to, he's all high and paranoid, and so he tries to throw the heat on me. So he says, yeah, she's a Sasquatch researcher. And, of course, I was real new. And when you're new, you really don't want anyone pointing at you or looking at you and saying, you're a Sasquatch researcher, right?
Yeah, what a prank.
And so anyway, I was like, oh, my God, boy. And so anyway, he's trying to creep around, where they're not looking at his red eyes. And so anyway, I said, yeah, that's what I do. I just fessed up to it. Well, that park ranger looked at me, and he looked at me, and I knew he knew.
Yes.
He had that look. I knew he knew. And then of course, they was really watching this gentleman. They were really watching him. And they had been following us around, and I didn't even know it because they just showed up. And then they followed us out, and that's when he blabbed that I was a Sasquatch researcher. And then, then he says, come here. The park ranger asked me to come over to the truck, and I thought, oh, gosh, he's going to ask me about my friend if he's been doing dope. I just know he's going to ask me something like that. I just really don't want to say anything. Well, he wasn't really a friend. I would say an acquaintance, somebody I knew. But anyway, he calls me over there, and he goes, I'm going to give you something that will come in real handy. And he gave me a laminated county map, topo map. And I was like, wow. I mean, it was nice. That sucker was huge. But it had every creek, every knoll, every river, everything on it. It was awesome. Every little pig trail. It was really a wonderful map to have. And, I wanted to say, I know you believe because I could see it in your face, but I didn't have to. I knew he knew.
Right. But, I know when my experience first happened to me, I remember of Masonic Lodge down there in Texas, and we were sitting down there talking one day, and I made the mistake of thinking they wouldn't laugh at me if I told them what I did and what I saw. And a couple of them kind of laughed and poked fun at me, but there was this older guy that he's a Cajun that he lived right there along that border of Louisiana. And he lived in Iowa when he was younger, Louisiana. And he talked about when he was down in Cal Bayou down there along the Sabine River there that he had what he called a loop guru or something like that. That he would hear, and he said if you ever go in Cow Bayou and crab, do it from a boat out far enough so can't nothing grab you from the bank, because those loop gurus live there. And I'd never heard of a loop guru until that time, and I guess that's the same thing as a Sasquatch. I don't know, but from the way he talked, it had to be pretty close, or some subspecies or something.
How about you, Jeff? Have you ever heard of a loop guru on the Sabine River?
Oh, definitely. The loop guru. Yeah. I call him a loop guru, but a lot of times we shorten it up, kind of slang called the rougarou.
Oh,
Rougarou.
That's the same as Sasquatch.
A rougarou is more of going to be more like a werewolf, going to be a kind of a spiritual thing, because what happens is you get a gree put on you, and you'll turn into the rougarou. And the way it kind of went is it turns you into like a werewolf type thing, and a lot of people see them, and it'll be people that they've taken on the mannerisms of like a wolf or a rabid dog. They'll be slobbering at the mouth, and the way they look. A lot of people think that it came about as back whenever rabies was real bad, and people got bit, and people got rabies. And the way people would act when they had rabies is what gave rise to the werewolf legends and the rougarou legends.
Okay.
But if you go down into South Louisiana, and you go down into the swamps, even some of the swamps down here in Texas, and run into some of the old timers that ain't many left, they'll tell you flat out that that rougarou is somebody that's had a hank put on them, or had a gree put on them, or something like that, and they believe it wholeheartedly.
Yes, this guy that I spoke with, he talked about it just as if it was as real as the coffee cup he was drinking out. And he was convinced that if you win in Cow Bayou, you stay out in the water. You don't get up there where they get you.
That's right. And you said you was at a lodge meeting when you was talking to him, huh?
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know you was a traveling man.
Yes, sir.
I belong to lodge number 737 here in Tenahall.
Well, it's good to meet you. I was invited 1286 and then Pine Forest 1420 till I moved up here.
Good deal, man. Great.
Yeah, there's a lot of people you meet in lodge that if you got a question about any local history or whatever, you'll find somebody that knows that answer. And that's a good resource to have.
And the thing about it is that pretty much you can take it to the bank. If somebody tells you something, it's pretty much not some flight of fancy. It's not some torrid tale.
Right.
If they're telling you on the square, so.
Yes, that's right. Since I moved up here, I've got several places that I'm researching. I worked in Colbert County down there in Alabama. That's just south of the Tennessee River in the northwest corner of the state, if you're not familiar with it. And there's an area down there that I worked as a guard from 10 at night to 6 in the morning for 5 years. And they were just building this plant at the time I was down there. And many nights that I was there, I was the only one there from 10 at night to 6 in the morning. I locked everybody out when the last people that were working on the building left, and then I opened it up, let them in the morning, and it was 750 acres of just pristine wood, and I would go down there and my calls, and when I first get started in my investigation, I get my calls, and after a while, I got around this tree, and that started putting me on. But I got down there. There's this one area where I go down and check a railroad entrance gate, and it's in the middle of nowhere on that property. And there's a tree that's a large pear tree. And one night I went down there about 11 o'clock, and there were pears on the ground. And I come back through at 3:30, there wasn't a pear anywhere on that ground. I knew that I was the only person on there. So it had been something that got those pears. It wasn't me.
Huh. And this was in one of your research areas,
right?
In Northwest Alabama.
Yeah.
I've always heard Northwest Alabama is a great place to research.
Well,
I've researched over there near Sylacauga, and you know where that is, and the south of Birmingham.
Right. Another real good place that I've been going to, I'm not going to tell you exactly where, but it's along Natchez Straits corridor there between Colbert County and Tennessee. So the river up, that's general enough to let you know where it's at without saying where it is. But there's trails that go back in there that there's probably nobody ever visits, and I've been going in a couple of them and just sitting there and listening. I'll get in there and walk in there, and when I sat down, I just sat down and listen, and I don't record stuff and things because I'm not going to show anybody a wild squash, or I'm not going to go and get a dog and go and say, hey, this is a Sasquatch. If I can't prove that it is, it's been
that's true.
We got plenty of blob squatches already floating in the net. They don't need another one. But I've had some scratch your head type experience. I was sitting down at one of my places. There's a little creek. It comes down, and then it meets a little bit bigger creek. And I was sitting down there on that point one day. I wasn't fishing, but I was sitting there just listening and everything, and something threw a walnut at me. I don't know how else to say it. The walnut come flying from back in the woods, and there was a walnut tree within 30, 40 yards of me. But it hit the water, and it hit the water in there and splashed. And I thought, that's interesting. Something's got to have a thumb to be able to pick that walnut up and throw it. And and you never heard any vocalizations, or I didn't hear any limbs pop or anything. Which leads me to think that if they wanted to hurt you, they'd sneak up on you and get you, and you'd never have a chance. And I think a lot of times that people will say, well, I hear heavy footsteps. They're following me or they're pacing me. I think that animal there is wanting you to know, hey, I'm here, and I'm big because I make much noise, but it's not so much a threat as I'm going to help you get out of here. Maybe they've got little ones, or I don't know how Sasquatch babies are, but when our babies babies were little, if you woke them up from a sleep, you know, they'd be whining all day. It may be something where they just want to get you out of the way from hunting or whatever. But I don't think that they're intentionally all just benevolent, or they're not all just they're all just malevolent. There's
right.
probably as many different personalities with whatever they are as it is with humans. Though I don't agree that they are some proto-human. Though what I seen was not human, even though it had intelligence in its eyes. I don't know if it was instinctive or if it was learned intelligence, but he knew what I was, even though I didn't know what he was, and I was there at 3:30 in the evening. I couldn't mistake what I saw at 30 feet. You know, I watched it all the way across the water. I couldn't explain what that was. I knew what I saw. I didn't know what I saw what. And so I don't think that it. I don't think that it was human. For the simple fact that if it was, it would have got caught. Because people are not. Even the best woodsmen in the world, from what I experienced, there ain't no way the best hunters that I know of could have got across that creek, that river down there. I call it creek because Tennessee River's a mile and a half wide, but down there it's a river. But there's no way the best hunters that I know could walk across that looking back at me without looking down where their feet stay. And it's just, he was in his environment. You know, if we dropped him down in Beaumont in the middle of a town, he wasn't going to be in his environment, and I would do better that. But if he then in woods, I'm in his environment. He knows what he can do, and he knows how it works because that's his everyday life.
What do you think, Jeff? What do you think they are?
Actually, you know, I've really been involved with a couple of the DNA studies that are going on, and had some samples involved in them, and the results that we got back, you know, it showed that there was human DNA present. And
I believe that.
Just like with my samples that I submitted and that my group submitted and everything, we also submitted our own DNA so that they could test and see if there was contamination from us, which there wasn't. Our DNA was not present, but there was human DNA present. And what we found was, like in most normal human beings, we have a certain percentage of prehistoric man DNA, Neanderthal, Heidelbergensis, things like that. And that is like a 0.0004%, just a minute trace percentage. And some people have a little more, some a little less. These samples had like a 15 to 20% prehistoric man type DNA. And whenever you're talking about a human being that would have 20% Neanderthal or Heidelbergensis DNA, you're talking about someone that would look considerably different than you and I.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my theories that I've worked on for years and years and years was kind of along with the theories about people going missing in the park systems and things like that and all. But if you take a species that is as close to humans as this species may be and they crossbreed with humans, we could, over a long period of time, you get that human DNA intertwined in there with their DNA.
Right.
And people are like, but, you know, humans can't crossbreed with, you know, monkeys, with chimpanzees or with any other primate.
Right.
And that is true. We cannot. But what you end up with is at some point in time there was another species that did, because scientifically it's been proven that some of your prehistoric man, some of the bones and teeth and things that they have gathered, has DNA from several different species of hominid that were alive at the time, say, 30, 40,000 years ago.
Right.
Mhm.
So my opinion is I think they are a species unto themselves, and I believe that they also have a little bit of us mixed in there with them because of breeding necessities. And I think they're one of the reasons why a lot of people like, I know, I don't want to mention his name, but a certain biologist in New York likes to always say, well, there's human DNA present, so it's got to be contaminated.
Right.
It doesn't have to be contaminated. That's where they're making the mistake, is because they're throwing it out because, it's contaminated. And I'm always telling them, dig a little deeper. Take samples from everyone that has touched this sample, from every one of these people, and that submitted it. Test it against that and see what you get. And what happens is, a lot of what I've been privy to, whenever you're looking at the markers in the DNA, whenever you're looking at that, it does not really coincide with what you would think you would see. Like when I submitted my DNA, there's just a computer model printed out on paper of my DNA, and whenever we compared it to the DNA that was of the sample, they were not close.
Wow. Well, maybe one day we can get a sample and send it in to Ancestry.com, and they say who their cousins are.
Well, that is one of the things that I've actually considered doing. Is if I ever got a good enough sample that something didn't need to be extracted from a hair or from fecal matter, and doing it from fecal matter is almost not even worth messing with, because you've got the DNA from everything that's been eaten and from the bacteria that's in the fecal matter itself. So extracting viable DNA from fecal matter is almost impossible. But if we could ever get a good sample that could be sent into somewhere like Ancestry.com and just see what their lab would come up with,
yes,
it would be worth the $100 to see.
Right.
And to get that phone call from them, too. Hey, buddy, we don't know who your grandpa was, but we're pretty sure he was a barnyard animal.
Oh, my God.
There's basically three kinds of people in the world, and that's African origin, Asian, and then European. So are you saying that this other human DNA is different from those three? When y'all take them out?
No, it was different from everyone in the group.
Oh, I see.
Everyone that had access to it, everyone that their DNA could have any way, shape, or form possibly gotten contaminated into the sample.
Right, good. Okay.
So basically, one of the samples came back with Asian DNA.
Wow.
And nobody in our group was Asian. Nobody in our group was married to an Asian, lived with an Asian, or had contact with an Asian in any way, shape, or form that any of that DNA would have been present. But yet there was human Asian DNA present in the sample. Now,
that kind of confirms the land bridge theory then,
Right.
Well, and on my land, or the land that we had access to where some of these samples came from, there are no Asian people that frequent the land. It's private land. They're the landowners and the people, there's just not, there's not a nice little Korean family that lives 2 miles down the road that takes hikes through the woods. So the Asian DNA had no really any explainable way of being where it was.
Well, I know in some of my studies I found where, like in the Northwest, they talk about the stick Indians, which, from what I understand, that's kind of like Sasquatch. They would kidnap their women and interbreed with them, or they would eat their kids. Now, one theory is that if they do have Asian DNA, that could come from when, if you believe that everybody came across the Bering Strait as First Nations people, then that would be a plausible way, I guess I'd say, that they could get Asian DNA through their ancestry somewhere in that.
Exactly. I mean, it just raises a lot of questions that need to be addressed sincerely, not with mainstream science laughing at us and scoffing at us and saying we're all a bunch of kooks. You know,
right.
I do the best I can. I've trained myself in a lot of ways in doing a lot of things because I look at a lot of things under a microscope before I ever send it in. You know, I've taught myself how to determine the difference between deer hair and human hair and dog hair and things like that under a microscope. And that way I can rule out all of those things before I pay money to have somebody look at them.
Right.
But, you know, if mainstream science would just quit making fun of us and mocking us and then help us out,
Amen.
then we could prove or disprove something without a doubt. But instead, whenever you go and you talk to a mainstream scientist and you try to have a sincere conversation, and then the minute you mention Bigfoot, oh, you're one of those.
Right.
You know, and you're labeled pseudoscience and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm sitting here and I tell them, you know, we have literally 2,000 new species are discovered a year in this world. A lot of them come from the Amazon basin and stuff like that, but there's 2,000 new species. A lot are insect and things like that. But in the past couple of years, there's been like 2 new primates discovered. You know, and one of them is as big as a chimpanzee, and you're sitting there going, well, how in the world could a primate have been missed? Well, it's as big as a chimpanzee, so I'm sure everybody that saw it thought it was a chimpanzee. Well, in North America, if you see something that is 6 foot tall, covered in hair, it's got to be a bear, right? So everybody kind of just shrugs it off. Or if you see something that looks like a guy walking through the woods, it's got to be a guy walking through the woods. You know, so there's lots of reasons why we don't have the evidence that we need to have without even going into the spiritual or the out there kind of, you know, Rod Serling evidence and answers and things. But, you know, there's just lots of things that we could get accomplished if we had more cooperation and less condemnation.
That's right. One of the things I've come across is people take Native American folklore as imagination, where those guys who spent their years learning stories to tell their kids and grandkids, they're learning something that was told to them as fact. They had to learn as best they could, mouth to ear, so that they tell it exactly the way it was 100 years ago. Of course, there's some things that's going to get lost in the mix, but if they're saying, I saw this, and then these Europeans come along, and after 1,000 years of these Native Americans saying, okay, I've seen this animal, and it's drawled in the pictographs just along with the deer and everything like it's an animal, then just because a European man hadn't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You know, maybe. Exactly. And one of these days, if we never get us a blind English scientist out from Cambridge or somewhere out in the woods and tie him up and put him some spam or something out there, bring him up, maybe he'll believe, hey, I found Sasquatch, and everybody knows.
Yeah, you know, but one of the things that I like to look at is Native Americans had back in those days, which I'm Native American, I'm half Native American and half Scotch-Irish. they did not have television to look at, so they weren't influenced by science fiction. They had no zoos to go to look at and see a gorilla or any kind of a monkey or anything like that. And there were no monkeys on the North American continent. So these Native American tribes that lived here in North America, the 500 tribes, every single one of them have a legend and have a story of a Bigfoot, a gorilla-like creature.
Yes.
And if they did not have access to science fiction or any kind of zoos or anything like that, you know, what, did they all just have one big mass hallucination and everybody saw the same thing? You know, how do you explain that all 500 tribes, all the nations, 500 nations that lived here in North America, all have a similar story, a similar legend, a similar belief that evolved in a very similar way if they weren't in contact with these people, with these animals, with these beings, if they were not in contact with them and they were not witnessing the evolution of that story, of that timeline, and how they were reacting and interacting with these tribes.
Yeah, something else we tend to forget is these tribes, we're not talking about the kids running around saying, I saw something. These are the elders. These are men who would rather say nothing than lie to you. And until Europeans came, I don't reckon they even knew what a curse word was. But, you know, these are men who, if he told you something, you can pretty much bet it. You know, if they, like I was saying, you still around here, if he says a rooster can pull a freight train, you better bet on that rooster because somehow he's fixing to pull that freight train. You know,
right.
And so it's just because the Europeans don't see it, it tended to be pushed off as well. They're just trying to scare us or whatever. You know, we even today. People can go and listen to these stories, and I've got Native American heritage in me, but I've got a science background a little bit with biology and things that where I've studied myself and learned. But if you go back and read these stories with a modern mind, you can see how stuff that they didn't even know existed back then is being proved by modern science, and that's how things go. And you know, it has to be true. If it's true, it's never going to change. Whether they told the story 500 years ago or if they told it yesterday, it's going to be the same. And we tend to overlook those things, and I think that a big reason why that we don't have this recognition is because, you know, the forestry industry is huge. You know, if somebody come up and said, we've got a North American primate that he needs his habitat, well, there goes the paper industry, there goes the furniture industry, there goes the building supplies industry, and they just rather do them like they do everything else. If it gets in the way of the money, we're going to push it to the side and it don't exist until we're forced to look at it.
Well, Joe, we have run out of time. You were a really wonderful guest, and we thank you for coming on. Can you believe it? It's already over.
Wow, that's time flies when you're having fun. That's
I was just going to say that.